I don't know why I have this on my heart and I have to be obedient what God is on my heart. How many of you have attempted suicide? Raise your hands. Look around this room. That's what Jenny did. But God had another plan. And if her plan to end her life would have worked, we would have never seen what we just saw. And I'm here to tell you, on Sunday night at church, one of our members that used to be a resident that fell into relapse. He relapsed over the summer. He kept serving, and now he's doing great, but he's got to go to jail, which was supposed to be for 3 years. It's just 6 to 9 months, which is not always easy, but it's better than what it could have been. And the thing I love about our church in this meeting here is when he confessed what was going on, the church gave him a standing ovation. Have you ever gotten a standing ovation when you're about ready to go to jail? That's who God is. And every one of you that raised your hand that tried to end your life, which is precious, life is precious, God is celebrating you tonight. And you can have everything that you just saw Keith and Jenny have. God, just like that video says, he's not mad at you. He's not disappointed in you. He grieves with us because he doesn't like us to hurt ourselves. He gives us free will. And for those of you who don't know who God is, and it's okay to be mad at him. He can take it because he knows who he is. But a lot of us are upset with God because we don't know the character of God. And I believe that video did a great job of really conveying who God is. God is so cool that he says, if anyone lacks wisdom, who lacks wisdom? Raise their hand. 100% of all hands should be going up. He says, all you have to do is ask, and I'll give generously without finding fault. God's not like you and I and our parents and those of us who are parents and you and I in general. God doesn't say, I told you so. God doesn't say you should know better by now. God doesn't say, I told you that 2 years ago, and you still didn't listen, so I'm not going to tell you now. That's not the character of God. God is forgiving, he's mercy, and stuff of that nature. So I know I'm speaking to hundreds of people tonight, thousands of people online, is that don't overcomplicate this. Wherever you are spiritually is where you're supposed to be. We don't care so much. What I do want to applaud is, for whatever reason, maybe you're mandated to be here, maybe you're watching at home, maybe you're drinking right now while you're watching, and maybe you're drunk listening to me. You still made a choice to come here. And even if you have to be here, you could have came up with a lie. One thing I'll tell you about lying is I was a liar, and lying is hard. Because when you live a lie, you got to remember what you lied about. And if your whole life is a lie, it takes a lot of work to remember what you lied about. And when somebody has to correct you on what you lied about, that gets very difficult. And just because I'm sober and just because you're sober doesn't mean we're perfect. We all have character defects and shortcomings, and not if they pop up, when they pop up, we really got to do. So, Lord, I thank you for another day above ground and out of prison. Not just a prison with bars, but the prison in between my two ears. I ask that you release me from that, and I thank you for getting me out of my own mind. Lord, I ask that you give the message tonight and speak through my vocal cords that are rough because of this sickness and think through my mind. Lord, I ask for forgiveness of all the things that I think and do and that are not about you, which is the 7-step prayer. And Lord, I receive the forgiveness. Lord, have your way in a quick period here tonight that you may change the course of our destiny. In your name we pray, amen. Amen. So I started a new series about being in sync on Sunday, and there's nothing more powerful than being in sync. I used an example and a prop of the difference between a camera that the flash goes off when you hit the button versus our iPhones. Very frustrating to me when somebody's taking a picture with a flash with my iPhone. You got to sit there for 4 seconds and smile. And after 2 seconds, the smile is fraudulent. Because you're not that excited to take the picture after 4 seconds. And unfortunately, a lot of us have lived our lives out of sync. And the definition of sync is a state in which things happen. A state I want you to look at from two different standpoints. A state is a location. We live, the majority of us live in the state of Minnesota. That's a location. A state is also a perspective, an attitude, a state of mind. It says a state in which things happen. Depending on, you could be in the wrong location and the wrong things are going to happen. You can have the wrong perspective and the wrong attitude and the wrong things will happen. But the definition goes on to say the same time in the same way. You can do the right thing at the wrong time and it'll turn out to be the wrong thing. And a lot of us who suffer from instant gratification, we don't like to wait. We want to go do what we want to do whenever we want to do it. And then we have to be honest with ourselves to remind ourselves or allow somebody to remind us that our best thinking got us here. None of us got here because we were making a lot of good decisions. So the definition of sync is that these things happen at the same time in the same way and are suited for each other. See, a lot of you don't think recovery suits you because it's a suit you never put on before. You don't know how to wear recovery. So when you put on recovery, it doesn't feel like it suits you because you're wearing something that doesn't feel right. You want to wear something that you want to wear. The Bible says those who clothe themselves with this stuff. You have to change one thing, that's everything. It ain't about putting the plug in the jug, smashing the pipe underneath your feet and throwing the syringe away and putting blocks on your pornography sites or getting kicked out of Mystic Lake Casino, because you can always find a different way to do it. You have to buy off on the fact that even though this suit doesn't feel like it fits, I'll eventually grow into it. Now, the suit that used to fit in the natural form before I smoked crack now was 6 inches too big for me after I went on the Jenny Crack diet. So it's going to take time for me to grow into this new suit. And what I've learned in my belt days, with belts, I used to have a paper punch because I had to make new belt loops in my belt because I was losing so much weight. I don't wear those kind of suits anymore. A crackhead with a gut is a sober crackhead. It says, suited for each other, in harmony or harmonious. I didn't know how to say that word correctly. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I'm not that educated. So I asked somebody, Jamie Mulder, on Sunday, how do you say this word? I didn't know how to say it. I was saying it wrong. I'm not afraid to ask questions. I'm not here to appear to be something that I'm not. So I didn't know how to speak that word, harmonious, and hopefully I'm saying. So I want to be in harmony with things. I want to be in sync with things. I want to be in sync with my children, within my family. I want to be in sync with my business. Most of all, I want to be in sync with God. I want to be where God wants me, and I want to be where He wants me, and I want to be in the time that He wants me there. And that's why I have not stopped coming to this meeting for 14 years. Like Stace taught me years ago, a lot of us, we think life is an experiment. So we do whatever we feel like doing. And we make permanent decisions in temporary situations. This isn't supposed to feel like it suits you initially. But I don't want to sit every Tuesday night wondering if I'm coming or not. A lot of us like to live in limbo, and we're not in sync. If you're in limbo, you're not in sync. You need to have your schedule laid out for you. It's not a question where I'm going to be on Tuesday. It's not a question where I'm going to be on Monday or Wednesday. My schedule is laid out, and it ain't laid out by me. Because I'm smart enough to know when it was laid out by me, where I ended up was the dope house. Like Keith said, it's time to shut your mouth and open your ears. When early recovery, and it may have taken years for Jenny's son to really believe in anything that was coming out of her mouth. So you can't be offended when we got all the answers because we're doing so good 60 days sober. They've seen us fail more times than they haven't. And it's not because we're failures. It's just that we were successful at failing. They've seen us make more mistakes than they haven't seen us not make mistakes, but it doesn't mean that you as a person are a mistake. The reason why about 70 of you put your hands in the air that you tried to kill yourself, you listened to the wrong voice, that life isn't worth living. And we have to understand those ways. So being harmed, and it says to make exactly simultaneously with action. As I was studying for this, it's a totally different thing now I'm going to bring to you versus what I brought on Sunday. Matthew 6:33 says, placing God first in your life puts you in sync with God. That's why there's a third step prayer. Made a decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand him. It doesn't mean you have to understand him. You just need to turn it over to the level of your understanding. And if you have absolutely no understanding of God, I just gave you 2 examples in Jenny and Keith and his wife and her son that God is who he says he is. I mean, that's the blessing is, if I was just sitting here saying, it's probably a good idea to get sober. I drank this morning, but I'm still got hope. If no one in this room was sober, it would be really difficult to believe that this works. How many of you have been sober longer than you've ever been? Raise your hands. That's the proof. Let's give God a hand. But it says now, seek the kingdom of God first. Other translations say, seek first the kingdom and live righteously. Living righteously is not as complicated as you think. We all make mistakes. We sin. I sin. You sin. When that happens, you dust yourself off and you get back up. The unrighteous stay down. The righteous get back up. Putting God first. God isn't saying, I'm the only person I want you to seek. I just want you to put me first. And if you know the 12 steps, you're going to see that throughout the 12 steps. And God says that he will give you everything you need. Now I want you to go back to your pages to the definition of sync. God says a state where things happen in the same way in the same time. While you're putting God first, you're putting your sync on this. You're in sync with God, and God's bringing your family back to you. At the same time you're putting God first, God is restoring your finances. At the same way that you put God first through service, God is softening the hearts of the loved ones that you disappointed. But we want to go do that before we allow God to do it. Because we think we know what we need. If you're in sync with God and you place God first, some of you don't even know what that means, so ask somebody that is. And you'll come to find you'll be in sync with God, and simultaneously as you're serving God, working on your 12 steps, getting a sponsor, being of service, God is doing all this stuff over here for you while you're on this sobriety thing. But we want to jump off the path of sobriety and we want to go get our families back. We want to jump off the path of sobriety and we want to go get a dream job. Because I know what I need. I can't see my kids because they're making me see them with a social worker like they did 14 years ago. I don't like that, so I got to go be super dad. So now I'm going to get what I think I need. And I push God right out of the play. How to get it syncing God is putting him first. You don't know how to do that, so ask somebody, and he'll begin to give you everything you need. And when God gives it to you, it's permanent. When you go get it prematurely, you most likely are going to lose it. We haven't done what we've done for 14 years consistently because we made all the right decisions and treated everybody the right way. We are here 14 years later because our hearts are right. And oftentimes, and now the definition of strategy is a general plan. It's a simple program for complicated people. This is not brain surgery to put God first and let God give you everything you need. God knows that she needs this relationship to be restored. But she couldn't restore the relationship. She needed to put God first, and God worked on him. Who better to work on a sibling or a son or a daughter than God? Now, I don't know his belief system. I don't need to know his belief system, but I know he heard something inside of his internal ear that you can trust her. But a lot of us are in the ear of our loved ones. Well, you can trust me. Look at me. I just went to meeting. I went to 3 meetings this week. Look, I got my card signed and I was talking to somebody last night. I said, man, that meth must be good. I never heard somebody talk so fast. So we need a strategy. We need a general plan for this to achieve something. A lot of us have done a lot of things with not achieving much. When my run was all said and done, and I've been through 11 treatments this last time, I didn't have much. I had done a lot professionally and made some money, but when it was all said and done, there was no achievement because I had nothing to show for it. So we want to start to have a strategy where we can achieve things. Now it says, especially over a long period. A lot of us are in a rush. You weren't in a rush to reconcile with her. His son wasn't in a rush to reconcile. He was scared that he was going to drink again. And he was afraid. 12 years it took, right? How long have you been sober and free? 17 years. 12 years he had to wait for that. While he sought God, God was working on his son. See, you got to understand how God works. See, a lot of us are just in it for the short term. We're in it for the short term, and it says we can't be in a rush to obtain something that's supposed to last. I'll say that again. You cannot be in a rush to obtain something that is supposed to last. A couple weeks ago, I showed you a video of the history of the Serenity homes and the church starting. It's 14 years. Now it's that as 14 years has gone by, it happens in a blink of an eye. But during the 14 years, it seemed like an eternity. Josh Templin just said that to me when he got his 3 years. He goes, man, I got 3 years clean and sober and free, but now I look back on the 3 years, it happened like that. Now I married him. I was in after the delivery of his daughter, and now this week he signed on the dotted line. Now here's no credit, no money, just a drug and alcohol problem when he got here. No one believed in him. Got married over the last 3 years, met his queen, had a baby, and now he's buying his first house. Give God a hand. But the plans that God has for us, no matter what you've done or what you're doing or what you're thinking about doing, God still has a plan for you. God has not changed his mind about you. Even if you have changed his mind about him, God hasn't said, oh, no, I don't have a plan anymore. He smoked crack again. No, God still has a plan. God says, for I know the plans. See, the key is to get to know those plans by getting to know the one who created the plans. But we want to know what the plans are. Well, tell me what next month's going to look like. I need to know what 2019 is going to look like, God, before I go any further. If you knew what 2019 looked like, if Jenny knew what 2018 looked like on March 6th with her son standing next to her, she would have wrecked it. See, we got to understand this is how God works. So God says, for I know the plans that I have for you, plans of a future and a hope, but you will not have a future without hope. Plans that are not full of disaster. We got here because it was a disaster. That God says that I have this for you, and it's not going to be, and he says plans of peace and well-being. If you're at peace, you're going to be in well-being. We got to get away from the notion that more money is going to give us more peace. A relationship's going to give us peace. Or when I get back home, it's going to get us. Some of us have recently moved back home. You have to be the peace. And then I love what it says here in Proverbs 24:6. The game plan in order to live a new life. This is what it is. Strategic planning. You're at war with yourself and with the devil. And it says, in order to win, you need good counsel. People like Jenny and Keith that are still here all these years later. It goes on to say, wise conversation and way over. When I travel with somebody, even locally here, that isn't used to being around with me, it makes them very uncomfortable because we don't talk small talk. I don't care how the sports teams are doing. I may watch them. I don't even know if they're in the playoffs or something. I want to talk deep. How are you doing? Ask somebody how they're doing later on tonight. They're like, what? When's it snowing next? Wise conversation is the way over the head of fools, and serious discussion they haven't a clue. The person who always is cooking up some evil gets a reputation of prince of rogues. Foolish incubate sin. That's what I have done and am capable of doing. That's great beauty. If you fall into pieces in a crisis, there wasn't much to you in the first place. Everybody's good when they first get here. They're their authentic self when they're newly sober, but their old self comes back and they turn into a nightmare. So do I. It's that nightmare is when you really got to stick and stay. It's like What do you do when you start to have options? I have to realize that God is still all I got. I have to realize that God is so it goes on to say, but I don't want to be around a lot of people that just fall to pieces in a crisis. The crisis is meant to get us stronger. It says, rescue the perishing. This is God's plan. Help somebody. You know, God rescued you to rescue someone else. You can't say, hey, it's none of your business. If you're in one of these homes and you know somebody's relapsing, you don't say it's none of your business, because if that brother or sister dies and you knew they were releasing, you got to answer to God. This isn't prison. If you know that they're drinking on the weekends and next weekend they go drinking, you know they've been drinking on the weekends and they kill somebody, their blood is on your hands. None of your business is not a Christian phrase. And it says, check this out. Someone's watching close. God's watching me to see what I'm doing with this opportunity. And it goes on to say, likewise, knowledge and wisdom for the soul. Get that and your future secure. Your hope will be on solid. Don't interfere with good people's lives. Don't try to get the best of them. No matter how many times you trip them up, God-loyal people don't stay down long. Soon they're up on their feet, while the wicked end up. Don't ever mess with the person that God's using. Don't ever mess with something. And you can't be holding their lives at such a high standard. They're only people just like you are. But God is using them to help you. And the devil's going to put thoughts in your head about how they're not helping you and who they're hypocrites and all. Don't ever mess with a godly person. It's dangerous. If you don't agree with the person, just wash your hands and leave. But don't throw stones, because that bad boy's going to bounce back and hit you right in the eye. And the stone that you threw a word or an accusation or an opinion is going to bounce back, and you'll be the one laying flat on your face. I could tell you stories of 14 years, some of which are not alive anymore. Don't ever try to hurt somebody that's trying to help you. It goes on to say now, it says the strategy for living God's plan. Proverbs 15:22. Follow people who aren't frustrated. Without counsel, your purposes are disappointed. A lot of you guys are just one disappointment over another. But with a multitude of counselors, they are established. I believe it's Ben Hyatt that's coming up on 4 years. 4 years. Little less than 4 years ago, he sat down with me. Come up here for a second. Where's the phone? Microphone. And he said to me, I'm over $100,000 in debt. I've got creditors calling me. He works at Cub Foods. He does okay, but he's not making a bank. But he's one of their best employees. Over $100,000 in debt. He came to me for counsel, because I know what it's like to be over $100,000 in debt. I know what it's like to have creditors. Too many of us tonight are running and we're not picking up the phone and we're changing our phone numbers, thinking that the creditors are going to forget our Social Security number. And if you ever do get back on your feet, you're going to wish you would have faced it. But what did God do in 4 years with how much in debt were you?
It was $137,000.
What did you do? You and I talked.
Yep, I talked, I listened to you. I started making agreements with all of them, started making payments. As of this last weekend, I'm clear with everybody.
Let's give God a hand. You want to go and get counsel from somebody that's been where you're at and is out of it, and they can help you take you to where they are. Too many of us are going when we're disappointed to other disappointed people. Too many of us, when we're angry, we go talk to somebody that's angry or somebody that's twisted. Who's this guy, Pastor Jeff? Now it's 7:50. We're only on the fourth scripture. But that's what Ben did, and I'm giving you examples. Romans 16, follow people who aren't complaining. If you've done dope like I've done and you're in this room, you have nothing to complain about. But it goes on to say, now that I make an appeal means that someone's trying to get our attention. Watch out for people that cause divisions. The reason why people cause divisions, this needs to be a strategy for life, because they're divided within themselves. And in a house divided, the Bible says, will not stand. So if you align yourself with them, they're not standing on solid ground. They're going to be out as soon as they win you over. It says, don't upset people's faith by teaching things contrary to what you've been taught. Stay away from them. If this is going on in the homes and you got some negative Nelly, you got some complaining, those people forgot where they came from. They're not bad people. Their sink has changed, their state of mind and their location of where they are. Now they're twisted about it. They forgot what prison looked like. They forgot what 1800 looked like. They forgot what the streets looked like. They forgot what the couch looked like when you got treated like a you-know-what by your you-know-who. Go get me this, go get me that. Yes, sir. Whatever you want, sir. I'll do whatever you want. Oh, you want me to take out the trash? Just give me another hit. I'll do anything. But God forbid I ask you to sit in a meeting longer than you want to. You're going to spin out of control. If it's about you, this ain't going to work. See, we got to understand that you need somebody like me to tell you the truth, even though I upset you. They write me from prison all the time, saying, man, I wanted to punch you in the face, but you were right. And what I thought was an inconvenience in Serenity or BSM doesn't hold any to the candle of my new roommate at Stillwater. You need somebody in your life that loves you enough to tell you the truth and doesn't get mad at you once you get out of pocket. They love you just the same as if you would have never said it. That's who God is. That's who God is. And I don't mentor a lot of men and women anymore because they can't handle that directness. A lot of people take correction as rejection. A lot of people come in these rooms as grown adults and they want to be comforted because they missed that moment with their parents growing up. If you comfort something that needs to be confronted, you're going to have to comfort it for years, and eventually the person that you're comforting is going to be drinking Southern Comfort. Because if all I'm looking for is comfort, I'm going back to crack, because that's the only thing I've ever found in a ridiculous state of mind that I was in that comforted me. Because it shut down the noise. But it shut down my life. It says in James 1, follow people who pass the test. Consider it a sheer gift, friends, when tests and challenges come at you from all sides. Then what are you going to do? It's great when everything's great. But what do you do when it ain't great? Do you spin out? I mean, if that's what I did, I wouldn't be here all these years later. You know, under pressure, your faith life is forced into the open and shows its true colors. That's when I love it, when men and women come into these rooms and they're grateful and they're humble and they're willing to listen to anything. But over time, your old self is going to come back and you're prideful, you're arrogant, and you're angry. That's your true moment right there. When you talk about what Jenny talked about, from my 5th to 6th year of freedom, I'd never wanted to drink more. That means she's really getting free. See, and you need to, so don't try to get out of something prematurely. Some of you tonight are trying to get out of something prematurely, and let me tell you, the first one to tell you, you're never going to mature. Because when it makes you feel uncomfortable, you want to run. It's that pressure that makes you grow. It's that pressure that sharpens you. It says, so they do this to become mature and well-developed. A lot of us are developed. I'm 48 years old, and I'm everything of 48. But that doesn't mean I'm well-developed. The Bible says in Corinthians, when I was a child, I spoke, talked, and thought like a child. But when I became a man, I put away my childish things. The problem is I was 35 years old, a grown man with little boy issues. I was developed, but I wasn't well developed. So I got easily offended. I was agitated, irritated. I forgot what the prison looked like. You know, these rooms are now, they're too much for me now. They're too much for me. So what does work for you? Because the dope didn't, the alcohol didn't, Mystic Lake didn't. The pornography with that stupid look on your face doesn't work either. Next time you use pornography and get done, take a selfie. And you'll remind yourself why not. And I struggle with everything. I had to get away. I've been free of it since the smartphone has been in existence, because if that smartphone would have been there back in the day, I don't know. Just to be real with you. And I'm not judging anybody that struggles with it, but I want to be real with you. Take a selfie. Put that selfie in. I'll leave it alone. It says in Matthew 25, follow people that are serving. The king will say to those on its right, it says, enter who are blessed by the Father. Why do you see some people blessed and some people not? God blesses people that are serving. He'll bless you maybe if you're not serving, but if this is what it reads, this is what I want to do because this is my strategy. The fact that I'm sober today is a blessing, and I didn't do anything other than decide to get sober and ask for God's help. But once I got here, I'm like, what else makes me stay here? What can I occupy my time with when I was a 24/7 junkie? I'm not going to be satisfied by watching TV or playing video games or whatever else. That ain't going to work for me. So this is a good example. Who are blessed by the Father. Take what's coming to you in the kingdom, and it's been ready for you since the beginning of time. A lot of us will never see what God had for us. Because, like I said earlier, we don't stay and put him first. We jump off his path and we go try to get what we need. And if we're honest with ourselves tonight, what we thought we needed is not what we needed. And whatever was so important to get, we don't even have anymore. Right. But God is saying this, here's why I'm going to give you what I had for you since the day you were born. And even before. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me, someone did this for me when I was in my addiction. I was homeless and you gave me a room. I'll say it about BSM and even Serenity Homes. I mean, I'm grateful that when I got on treatment, that they didn't ask for my credit score, my rental history. Well, no, you missed a payment in 2014. We can't rent to you. All these homes would be vacant. Right? We took a chance on you. Why don't you take a chance on us? God knows what he put in you. He's not taking a chance on you. He's just hoping, and he's here to help you pull this stuff out. See, and he says, when you do all these things, I'm going to bless you. If God can get it through you, he'll continue to get to it. Proverbs 9, follow people who have understanding. It says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. You know, a lot of us live with assumption. Assumption is understanding without knowledge. I love what it says here because it's so true. How many of you are living today and you never thought you'd live to the age that you currently are? It says, for through wisdom your days will be many and your years will be added to your life. When I was in Florida, and I was with my friend. Now, him and I used to do dope together. He used to sell me dope, and then we sold dope. Come here, Tom. We were there this past October, and we celebrated Tom's 50th birthday. He started crying. The Bible just said that your days will be many, and I will add years to your life. Why were you crying at the table when we celebrated your 50th birthday last October?
Well, just like you said, it was never thought I would see my 50th. Mm-hmm.
Has God made your days many?
Very many.
Has he added years to your life?
Yes.
How many times did you almost die because of alcoholism?
8.
He knows that number well. Let's give God a hand. Another brother, stand up. Stand up. You just celebrated 50 years. Let's give him a hand. He said the same thing to me. So it says in Proverbs 16, kind words are like honey. Get around people that are kind. You got to understand that there's something that comes against you that also has a strategy. And that something is the devil. And the devil has a strategy against you where it says he comes in order to steal, kill, and destroy the strategy that God has over your life. God says that his strategy and the reason why he came into your life is that you actually may have a life, enjoy it, have it in abundance to the full until it overflows into other people's lives. The difference between these two strategies is simple, and I think a lot of you are unaware of the differences. The strategy of the devil, you don't have to ask for. It's already on you. That strategy is working in and through you on a daily. The strategy that God has for you, you have to invite in. That doesn't seem fair. The flesh that you're fighting that I taught you on static is already in you. In order to have God's strategy, the plans and the hope and the future and the peace and the well-being, you have to invite God in. You don't even have to invite the devil in. You have the keys how to get him out. You don't have to try to think crazy. You can think crazy all by yourself. Have you ever thought about what you're thinking about? I mean, but I have to be intentional to walk out God's strategy. Judges 6, I use this there. God says, the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon. He says, mighty hero. Somebody comes into your life and says, you're a hero. God has handpicked you and saved you to help save other people's lives. You're a hero. And you're like, who, me? I'm a crackhead. And if I would have said that 14 years ago and believed the lie of the devil, I'd still be a crackhead. If I would have believed the lie that I'd never get my kids back, I would have never gotten my kids back. If I would have believed the lie that I was a one-time junkie and I'll always be a junkie and I'll die a junkie, I would have died a junkie. I adapted the word hero. Say, I'm a hero. I'm a hero. See, God's telling you you're a hero, and now we want to argue with God. God, I'm not a hero. I'm a crackhead. Why do we reject who God says we are and accept who your haters in your mind and the devil says you are? You're a loser. You're a terrible mother. You're a fiend. You're a has-been. You're a manipulator. You're broke. You accept all those titles. But when God calls you a hero, you say, that ain't me. And it's the same thing that Gideon did. And he had to sit, the angel of the Lord. And then he goes on to say, why has all this happened? Too many of us can't make anything happen because we're so concerned on why everything happened. I don't know why you weren't raised right. I don't know why there was abuse in some of our lives. I don't know why there was neglect. I don't know why there was abandonment. I don't know why there was poverty. I don't know why there wasn't love. But what I do know is that God called you a hero. And the person with abandonment and neglect that just celebrated multiple years of sobriety did it, why can't you? Why do two individuals grow up in the same home and one's a drug addict and one's a doctor? If the home had so much to do with it. And this is what his struggle is here. Check this out. He says, didn't you bring us up and out? God had to rise you up out of your addiction and bring you out. But now that you've been, see, we think when we get sober, it's just supposed to be easy. No, the battle just started when you put that dope down. He goes on and said, and the Lord turned to him and said, go with the strength you have. Some of you are saying tonight, I don't have enough strength to do this. All you need is the strength you currently have to do this. A lot of you are saying to yourselves, you're arguing with God and saying that he wants you to rescue. I mean, and I'm sending you and we argue with God. But Lord, Gideon replied, how can I rescue? I have nothing to offer. You have everything to offer with what you currently have. And if you offer up what you currently have, God will offer up more to you. That's why I said early, never mess with a God-loyal person that's helping people. If you don't like them, if you don't agree with them, just go on your merry way. And it's so important that you recognize this argument because we've all had it. It says, my clan. Look around the room, over 250 of us, and I don't know how many are watching online. This clan is a clan of misfits. And we're doing mighty things. Oh, this is my friend Teddy. He's a heroin addict, been to treatment 19 times, just got out of Stillwater. What are you guys up to? We're going to about ready to go hand over 50,000 pounds of food to the homeless. Have a good day. I mean, I go to the prisons, and you got all the guys, like, you know, they got the walk. I mean, I got the walk too. I got swag, but I ain't afraid. I mean, old habits die hard. But God is saying to Gideon that you have enough, and he says, I'll be with you, but you will destroy. You got to understand that God is not going to do it for you, but he'll do it with you, and you can conquer anything as long as he's with you. But quit waiting for God to do something that he has called you to do, and the only thing he promised you is when you do it, he'll be with you. And if you do it when he's with you, it'll always work. But there's another side of this coin as we close. The time has come to pick God's strategy. It says, if God were your father, said Jesus, you would love me. For I came from God and arrived here, and I didn't come on my own. He sent me. When you're trying to help people on God's behalf, understand that everyone's not going to accept you. You're not called to carry the addict. You're called to carry the message. It says, why can't you understand a word I say? This is what Jesus is saying. Here's why. Here's why some of us are struggling tonight to understand anything that was said tonight. You can't handle it. That's okay if you can't handle it right now, but don't leave. It says you can't handle it. Jack Nicholson in that one movie, you can't handle the truth. But this is what hurts me, and this is the lie I bought into. You're from your father, the devil. And all you want to do is please him. Do you know that you could be pleasing the devil by not working a program? Do you know that you could be pleasing the devil by not having a sponsor? See, I didn't even know I was doing things that pleased him, because once he found out I didn't have a sponsor and I wasn't working the steps and I wasn't going to my meetings, he didn't have to mess with me. He went to mess with somebody that was having a sponsor, was going to meetings, and was working the steps, because he knew I was done over a period of time. I never have purposely served the devil, but I've served the devil. And it goes on to say, check this out. He was a killer from the very start. That his strategy is to kill you, but yet you serve him. I served dope and it was killing me. I sold dope and it was killing other people. I drank booze and it was killing my family and me. I was serving something that was killing me, and the devil is a killer, and he knows what he's doing, and he does kill. It says that you're a killer. He couldn't stand the truth because there wasn't a shred of truth in him. When the liar speaks, he makes up all of his lying nature and fills the world. He fills my head with lies of all the things that he says I am, and I buy it. And I believe the lie, and I reject the truth, and I say, you must be talking about somebody else when you said hero. It says, can any of you convict me of a single misleading word? Anything that the Bible has taught us tonight is not to mislead you. It is to benefit you. And that's why you're rejecting it, because you don't like the benefits when it comes to do with truth. You'd rather go get these benefits. So did I when I went through 11 trees. I want the easier, softer way. No, the truth hurts, and the truth is going to set you free. But yet I'll sit in my chair, be preoccupied on my phone, waiting for this meeting to get over with, and I'll throw a tyrant and get out of here as quick as I can, because I'm serving the lie. He's serving up the lie, and I'm eating it. But he never told me I'd lose my family. He never told me that my friends would die. He never showed me in that orange suit. He never gave me a snapshot of that elevator at 1800 where I'd sit and have to watch people come and go and they wouldn't let me leave. He's a liar. I don't like messing with him. I don't even like talking about him. But what we're hearing now is this, but by telling you the truth, why don't you believe me? Anyone on God's side listens to God's words. This is why you're not listening, because you're not on God's side. Some of us are undercover tonight in here. We're in the mix, but we're not part of the mix. We're doing time in a recovery meeting. It's good training for the real time you're going to have to eventually do. I had to make a decision that I need to go to God's side. So here's what, I'm going to close with this. This is what I think you should do in groups. Not in a arrogant, prideful, angry, agitated, 2-year-old way. This is what I don't believe. I don't believe this. That's recovery. I don't believe this. You're telling somebody about your unbelief. But if you don't tell somebody in a normal, respectful, calm manner, you're going to spin out of here like a 2-year-old. And the question I have for you, if you spin out of here like a 2-year-old, where are you going? God bless you.